So you're thinking about starting your own home photography studio. Well, I'm here to help you out with this video. In this video, I'm going to be explaining my setup, and I'm also going to be going over all the equipment that I use for studio photography. So if you're trying to get into studio photography, you're definitely going to want to check out the equipment that I'm going to mention in this video. Stay tuned. What's going on YouTube? Adrian here, bringing y'all another video. So before I get into all the equipment, I want to first start out by saying you do not need a professional photography studio if you're trying to do studio photography. I do studio photography out of my own home. I will set this up in the living room like I have now. I'll set it up in one of our spare rooms or in the garage. So you do not have to have a whole professional setup to get good studio photography work. And I'm just saying this because I don't want you to think you need a whole big fancy setup to actually get started with studio photography.
How that sound? Yeah, that sound good. Tell them break it down. I saw Wendy's in your town. Don't forget the dollar sign. How that sound? Yeah, that sound good. Tell them get in line. Hold it down, hold it down.
All right, so now let's talk about the equipment that you're gonna need for studio photography. So everything that I mentioned in this video, I'm gonna link it down below in the description. So if you wanna check out any of these pieces of equipment, just head down to the description and you should be able to find it. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is this stand. So listen, you do not need a very expensive stand. All you need is a little cheap stand. I got this from Amazon. It was probably around 40 bucks, but it's super cheap, but it does the job. All I needed to do is just hold up my backdrop. You know, it's lasted for a while, so you don't need nothing crazy expensive. So with this one, you can adjust the height on it and you can also adjust the width at the top. So if you're looking for a stand, you definitely want to check that one out. So as far as the backdrop, I'm using seamless paper. I think this is Savage seamless paper. Has worked really good for me. This is a black. They have all kinds of colors you can choose from, and this is one of my favorites right here. I love this color right here. So, and the thing about this, you could just, you know, roll it out like I have it up here with the clips. So you could just roll it out and roll it back up to save space. And if you have parts that are messed up, you can just cut it off. So I really like this paper. Also with the stand, you're definitely gonna wanna invest in some sandbags. So I got these from Amazon. Also, you don't want your stand to tip or fall over. I have had mine fall over before. It didn't hit the client or nothing like that. It was just sitting up and fell over. So you definitely want to invest in something like this so you could weigh down the bottom. The base is at the bottom, so you won't have to worry about it hitting your client. Because listen, if it hits your client, you don't want that to happen. That's going to be a bad day. So you definitely want to invest in something like this. This comes in like a pack of, I think like 4 or 6. So this is, you definitely want something like this. All right, so next up, we're going to talk about this little attachment and stand, and this is a reflector right here. So what I use this reflector for is to fill in shadows. So if I'm doing headshots, I will usually place this under my client to fill in those shadows. And maybe if you just need a little fill light from the side, you could easily place this to the side of your client to bounce light or to add some fill light. So you definitely want to invest in a good reflector. And this is the attachment that I have, which it really comes in handy because you could just set this up under your client instead of having somebody hold it or having to set it up and, you know, just kind of rig it up. So I really like this stand right here, and it just makes it easy to use a reflector like this because you don't have to worry about holding it or having, you know, somebody else hold it. So I highly suggest getting this little attachment right here. And this is just a regular tripod that you attach the attachment to right here. So now we're going to talk about soft boxes. So this is something that you definitely need if you're going to be shooting studio photography. This is going to diffuse your light and soften your light. So you need this to pit over your flashes. So I use Glow. I love this brand, and I have a full review. This is my favorite one right here. Super big, so I'm not going to open it up. What I love about these is they're already set up. The rods are already put in, so you really just press this button down in the middle and it's set up. You put on your diffusion layers and it is good to go. This comes with 2 layers of diffusion. You have a reflector plate and it comes with a grid also. So, and it comes with a cool case to put this inside. So this is my favorite right here. I highly recommend this. You're definitely gonna want a big soft box because the bigger the soft box, I found the softer the light and just the better that the light looks. And I also like soft boxes that have the silver lining in the inside. I just like the details in the lighting that the silver gives off. And this is another Glow Easy Lock that I use. This is the I think it's the 21-inch deep parabolic. I'll put some photos on the screen of me using this one, but This is a smaller one, so if you don't want something as big as the 42-inch, you could definitely use something like this. This can produce some good results also. It comes with the same layers of diffusion, a grid, reflector plate, and it has the silver lining. I just love how the silver inside looks versus the white lining in the inside. It's just better details, better contrast, just looks better to me. I have a full review for the 42-inch glow. I'm gonna link that in the description and in the card up top. If you just wanna know more, in depth about that specific softbox, check out that review. All right, so now we're gonna talk about lights, because if you're shooting studio photography, you need good lights, you need good flashes. So what I use, this is my main key light that I'm using for studio photography. This is the AD400 Pro. Now with something like this is expensive. I think it's around $600. You don't have to get something like this if you're just starting out. It took me a while. I've been doing photography for about 4 years. It took me a while to get something like this, but you definitely want to invest in a good, powerful strobe light. And this is what you get with the AD400 Pro. It has a lot of cool features. It even has the modeling lamp feature. So if you want to get into continuous light, you could just use your modeling lamp. So it'll help with your exposure, and you won't have to make as many adjustments because you can already see how your subject is exposed if you're using constant light. So I really, really love that feature with the AD400. So like I said, this is very powerful. You don't have to get something like this, but if you just want to level up your studio photography, you definitely want to check out this light right here. And I have a video on my channel where I talk more in depth about the modeling lamp feature, and I show a behind the scenes shoot of me using this flash. So I'm going to link that in the description also, and in the card up top if you want to check that out. And this is the stand that I have this light on. This is one of my favorite stands. This is a heavy duty stand. It has a huge base at the bottom, and I really like this stand because I don't have to worry about my light falling over. And when you're using bigger strobes like this, you definitely want, not one of these cheap stands like this, but something that's heavy duty, because you don't want your lights to fall over and break. And I've had that happen before, and I don't want that to happen to y'all. So you definitely need to invest in a good tripod. This is a great tripod, big base, heavy duty, perfect for big strobes like this. So now we're gonna talk about some more flashes that I use. And with studio photography, you definitely want to invest in a couple of lights, maybe 2 or 3 lights, because you can get more creative and do different setups when you have more lights. So that's something to think about, just how far you're trying to go with your studio photography, because you're definitely gonna wanna get more lights than just having one light. So this is a speed light. This is the Godox TT685. This is specifically for Sony. Now with these, Godox is compatible with all brands, I think, like Canon, Fuji, all those, Nikon, all those brands. So make sure, and you'll see it has a little letter at the end, S stands for Sony. So make sure it's compatible and you get the right one for your specific brand of camera that you're using. With these speed lights, I'm not using this for my main light. Like I was saying earlier, for your main light, you want something powerful like a strobe, like the AD400 Pro, or even this Godox 200 that I'm gonna talk about in a minute. With the speed light, I have a couple of these. I'm usually using this for my rim lights. So my rim light is pretty much creating more separation from the background with my studio work. And I love the look that it gives off. It gives the photo more of like a 3D type look. Now this is the AD200. This is one of my favorite strobes. I love this strobe. You can see the size. It's about the same size as the speed light, but it's more power. So as far as power, this is between the strobe, and it's more power than the speed light. So that can give you an idea about the power that you're gonna get for something like this. This is like a smaller strobe. I do use this as my main light sometimes because it does have a good amount of power. It's not as powerful as this big strobe right here, but it is stronger than a speed light. So if a speed light is not powerful enough for you, but you don't wanna invest in something huge like the AD400 Pro, you can check out something like the AD200 by Godox. I love Godox. You see, that's all my lights. It's just a great company, a great brand. They're compatible with all different types of camera brands, so I love Godox. And also, I forgot to mention that this, to show y'all, has a rechargeable battery. And also the AD400 Pro has the rechargeable battery too. So that really comes in handy. And the batteries last for a long time. Like, it's not one of those things, when you're done with the shoot, the battery is drained. You could use these for multiple sessions and not have to charge them at all. Next up, I want to talk about triggers. So this is something that you're going to need to work your flashes and connect them and control the power, the output of your flashes with this trigger. So this is the Godox X Pro S. I love the big screen. easy to navigate through. I love this one. They have other ones, but I like this one because the screen is so big and you can navigate within your different groups easily. So if you're using multiple flashes, it's easy to go to those flashes and change the power on this screen. Make sure you get a trigger because you're going to need this trigger to connect your flashes and to work your flashes and stuff. You have to get a trigger. Now with some speed lights, you can use them as a trigger, but I don't like the menu system on the speed lights as far as using that as a trigger to control your lights and multiple lights. I love this trigger right here because the menu layout is so much easier, trust me, and it's just easier to navigate and control different lights, especially when you're using, you know, like a 2, a 3, 4 light setup. You definitely want a trigger. All right, so this right here is called a S bracket. So you attach this to your tripod at the top. This is how you put your flashes in it, just like this. You tighten that, and then it has this little handle so you can change. It's not working. There it is. But you can change the angle of your flash too. So for your speed lights and something like the 8200, you might want to look into getting an S bracket to mount that on top of your tripod, and it's super cheap. So now we're going to talk about lenses. So this is my main lens that I use for studio photography. This is the Tamron 28-75 f2.8. Tamron is a great third-party company. If you're using the Sony system, I shoot with the Sony a7 III, then Tamron lenses are great, and they're usually cheaper than the native Sony lenses. So if you don't want to drop a bunch of money on the Sony lenses, you can look into, you know, a third-party company like Tamron, even Samyang. They have good lenses at a cheaper price, so that's just something to think about. I love this for studio photography because of the range, and I love using zooms because I can change my focal length very quickly instead of having to, you know, take off my lens and stuff like that. Kind of interrupts the shoot, so that's why I like zooms for studio photography. I can change easily, you know, I can go to 50, 35, 75, so I like that flexibility with this lens right here. And this lens is tack sharp. I actually have a full review on my channel. I'm gonna link that in the description also and in the card up top if you want to check it out. Something to think about with your lens though for studio photography is where your setup is. You know, it's something to think about because maybe you won't have a lot of room, so you may not be able to use like longer lenses like a 85, a 135. So you really have to think about your setup because we don't have a lot of room in here, so this really comes in handy. Even in the garage, I can't scoot back super far, so that's just something to think about before you purchase a lens for your studio photography, how much room you have to work with your setup. So if you got some value from this video, please smash that like button. Like I said earlier, all this equipment is going to be linked in the description down below. And I also have more videos that you might find helpful in the description also, so check those videos out. Subscribe to the channel. I post new content every single week. On my channel, I'll talk about photography, the business side of photography. I talk about equipment from time to time. So if you're interested in that, subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. I will see y'all in my next video. Peace.